perhaps even on the high school level, and the fear that if they're taken out for the year, are they going to have a job when they come back? Or are the school administrators going to look at it and see it as we don't need the librarians anyway? So there's that fear as well. We talked a little bit, or I really talked a little bit, shared what North Dakota is doing with OERs and how we're trying to get that hub going again and adding resources to it, and what part the state library is going to have in it. But I really think that Christina Ishmael's presentation brought a lot of tangible questions to ask and ideas to consider. So I'm really using her PowerPoint as a way to have a discussion with some of the people here in Bismarck. So if I'm understanding question 3, are you saying that what can the state do to help the librarians?
So for question 3, that was just mainly as a state, what are ways that you can see librarians being able to support district from the state perspective? And so it's like you may have, and that was just more of each state's going to have different situations. And one of the things, after listening to Mark, it's like how, maybe there's something that at the state level, or there's a number of librarians that would like to get together and come up with kind of here's a roadmap, or here's how we can promote the state library e-resources, or making sure that our focus is more on how Mark presented it rather than, I think, and I'm horrible at the coming in with all the solutions. And so, helping people with those resources that we have at the state level. So that was all.
Okay. I do think that the use of databases definitely went up during COVID. That was a real necessary resource. Unfortunately, we would like it to be used that way all the time, but it really, and maybe it will be. And we did talk a little bit about the 2 new ALA books on the secondary collaboration and the picture book inspired lessons. Those are 2 good resources if you're looking for material for having quote unquote library lessons. And then I asked them how they saw their libraries changing perhaps, or what their role would be in culturally responsive conversations and teaching as a result of George Floyd's death. And then I explained to them that the Library Coordinating Council does have a grant that they are offering to libraries, public, academic, and school libraries on COVID supplies, that type of thing. So getting some money so they will be able to buy PPE materials. Corrine has one specific question on shared devices and how they need to be cleaned. And I think, so I'm curious if any of you have ideas, but that information is also evolving. As we got into COVID, they started saying different things from what they initially thought. How long can the virus live on substances? But if they're sharing devices, you obviously can wipe off the covers and stuff. I did share that press and seal is a recommendation to put on keyboard covers. I don't know if it would work on, if it would work on the screen of an iPad or that type of thing, or I don't know that information, but any other suggestions would be helpful if anybody has any ideas.
Well, thank you. This is good, and your conversation looks really like you guys talked about a lot of stuff, so that's good. All right, alphabetically, our next state is South Dakota. So, Alyssa. You are muted, Alyssa.
Sorry. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was a rebel and didn't really follow protocol that you lined up, but we did have some good discussions, and I shared some resources and some words from Daria, our state librarian. The state library in South Dakota, the physical state library, will open July 1. And at least that's the plan for now, and will remain open until the Department of Education tells us to shut her down. We also shared that we have a new digital resources coordinator. Her name is Kim Bonin, and we will be going through another round of taking a look at our databases and our e-resources. And so I let our South Dakota librarians know that if there are requests, that we are always, requests of databases, we're always open to those requests. And in fact, 3 that I can think of right now were requests, 3 of our newer ones were requested by school librarians a couple of years ago, and we were able to pick those up for the school districts, saving school districts a lot of money. And that is one way that school librarians can support teachers too, is by promoting the use of our databases, especially in a remote kind of learning atmosphere. We also talked about the state library is offering a technology grant for the CARES Act. And they have already finished up round 1. There is still money left, and so there is now a round 2 that will open up June 15th and close August 2nd. So there's plenty of time to apply for that. One of the hangups for school libraries is that they need a school library technology plan. If the school library is not mentioned in the strategic district technology plan. And so we talked about how if that is what is hanging them up, email me and I will give people an example or 2 of school library technology plans. You can just on the fly make up your own technology plan so that you can apply for this technology grant. Let's see what else. We also talked about different resources that support diversity and inclusion, especially during this time of Black Lives Matter, and us just being more aware of our rural white culture in South Dakota and how we can support diversity. I showed some of my curated collections. The most popular one by far has been the Native American collection that keeps growing. And so, in South Dakota, when we're thinking locally, really supporting Native Americans, but also the education of Indigenous peoples is super important. And that, that's important in our state, but it also carries out into the type of people that we're trying to grow into our society. So, let's see. I think that was about it. You know, I just kind of caught up with people, so it was good to see people's faces. We did talk a little bit about what it might look like next year, going back to school. As of now, it looks like everyone's going back, and there's different kinds of contingency plans, which is awesome.
Thank you, Alyssa. This is great. And I did share in the chat, my mom's public library got some of that first round, and we wrote the tech plan
Yeah.
one night. It was no big deal.
It really is no big deal, and I think it's, you know, especially with some of the smaller libraries, it's freaking people out. Even in our schools, it's freaking people out. But look, we can help you with it.
Well,
you know,
and
it's money, we want to give it away.
do you have any examples of what should be in the tech plan? I mean, because really, mom's was pretty simple. So if you could share a link. I mean, really, hers was just like, we replace our computers X number of years, and you know, this and this, and I mean, and so it really wasn't in depth at all. So yeah, if the tech plan is holding you up, I can fake it with you. No, I'm kidding. Alyssa can help you. All right, I'm going to move us on to Paige in Wyoming, so that we can get ready for our keynote speaker. And so, and this is South Dakota. I don't know how Wyoming has the grant, so we'll have to answer that. So thanks, Alyssa.
Yes, it was wonderful to see Wyoming school librarians again. Seconding what Carmen said, a lot of our school librarians feel that frustration of not knowing what's going to happen, no plan. Some of the districts are planning for every option, for opening as normal, for opening, partially normal, moderately, or for entirely virtual learning. So just having those plans in place is something, if you're planning for any option, then it kind of makes things less stressful, but it's a lot of work to do that. I know that Wyoming Department of Education has convened a group, a Smart Start group, and they're going to make a plan, best practices, safety first kind of planning for opening schools in the fall. And that is going to help guide what individual districts do, but I know that these districts are already working on stuff because they've got to. An issue is, of course, connectivity, and it was an issue in the spring, and it will continue to be an issue because, there are some groups that they're not big on technology. And one of our school librarians, Janet, had mentioned, and I don't remember the name of the group, but it's a group that they do not get on board with technology, but there are groups out there like that. Also, Wyoming, the Department of Ed has encouraged districts to adopt Canvas, and a lot of districts, the majority of districts have, as well as community colleges and UW. But some adopted them a lot earlier than others, and those who just adopted it, the teachers are still trying to figure out the ins and outs of it. For the younger set of students, doing remote learning from home, an issue has been the parents need to be trained on how to use Canvas. So that's another issue that has come up and probably hadn't been addressed when the campuses were open. So there's issues like that, just trying to maintain equity of access. Some districts, were able to send devices home with their students. Some districts also purchased hotspots for those that needed internet connectivity. And these are all things that became very blatant this spring during the suddenness of the pandemic, but they're things that are going to have to drive the plans coming up in the future for the fall, and hopefully, on a more permanent basis, because we can't go back to what schools have been. Open range, we have Open Range Wyoming, and that has been something the WDE has been working on for the past several years. And it has launched, it is available. There have been trainings on it in the last, the school librarians talked about it, doing a lot of it, the training last summer. But there's been a change in management, who the project director has changed. And so there's been kind of a lag as far as training and new additions to the platform. So we need to, I don't know, start a fire under somebody maybe, or just, hopefully this new project director is going to get on track here soon. But that is something that Wyoming has, and that's a bonus. As far as helping districts, our Wyoming School Library, the WLA interest group, specifically Connie Holland, go Connie, she wrote a grant and received a grant, an AASL grant, to do training around the AASL standards. So they're going to do some regional trainings, and everybody who joins one of the workshops, they're to bring an administrator so that the administrator can see what librarians do and get a better picture of the support that they already have in their schools and their districts, and hopefully come to a better understanding of why having certified library positions is so much more effective than having classified, even if the classified, and we have several para positions that are filled by certified teacher librarians. And unfortunately, when you're hired as classified, it limits what you can do. It limits the scope of your influence. So it's really unfortunate, because you can get so much more out of your librarian when you're hiring them as certified, and they've, we all know this, I'm preaching to the choir. But anyways, the AASL workshops will be very beneficial for helping administrators understand how librarians can support reopening and continuing to follow those plans in the coming year. Yeah, that's what I've got.
Wow, good. Thank you so much. I appreciate you three coming in and hanging out with your states. And I mean, this spring, especially with we did not get a chance to connect in many of the ways we normally would have. So I'm glad we had this opportunity.
I'm glad I got to come in on this. And I just want to say, Julie and Joan, you have a knack for bringing in wonderful speakers. So I'm so glad that we got to hear Mark Ray. That was amazing. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, and our next speaker is here getting ready to go. And so I'm so excited.